He doesn't show you the full picture, because if you saw everything, you'd try to control it. He gives you just enough light for the next step. That's how he builds trust. If he showed you the whole path, you wouldn't need him anymore. So when life gets dark, that's your moment to lean in deeper. The darker it gets, the more your faith grows roots. When you start walking by faith, your flesh will fight back. Doubt will creep in. Your mind will say, what if it doesn't work? But faith doesn't need reassurance. It needs consistency. You got to keep walking when your emotions tell you to quit. You got to trust even when your situation screams that it's over. Because when you keep walking, something powerful starts shifting, not just around you, but within you. You will start noticing small signs of God's hand in your life. A phone call at the right time. A door that opens unexpectedly. A moment that reminds you that you are not forgotten. That's how God works. He doesn't drop miracles all at once. He gives you glimpses to keep your faith alive. Those moments are proof that if you keep walking, the big breakthrough will come. So when the road looks uncertain, that's your cue to move anyway. When the odds are stacked, that's when faith becomes alive. Don't wait to see before you believe. Start believing before you see. Because the moment you take that first step into the unknown, heaven starts aligning everything you need to keep walking forward. Most of us spend so much time trying to plan every detail of our lives that we leave no room for God to move. We say we trust him, but we want to control the outcome. That's not faith. That's fear disguised as logic. God doesn't ask for your blueprint. He asks for your obedience. When he gives you a direction, he doesn't need you to figure out how. He just needs you to say yes, because obedience is what activates the miracle. It's easy to obey when it feels comfortable. It's easy to trust when the path is clear, but obedience gets real when it costs you something, when you have to walk away from a job, a person, or a situation you thought you needed. That's when faith steps up and pride steps down. God tests your willingness to follow instructions without full understanding. The blessing isn't in the plan, it's in the obedience. When God tells you to move, don't sit there debating whether it makes sense. Most of the time, it won't. You will look at your resources, your experience, and your connections and realize you don't have enough. But that's exactly the point. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. If it made perfect sense, you wouldn't need him. Obedience says, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you enough to move anyway. You will never experience divine provision if you are waiting for perfect timing. There is no perfect time to do what God told you to do. The time is when he speaks. Every delay in obedience is a delay in blessing. Every time you hesitate, you slow down what he's already prepared. You can't ask for open doors and then refuse to walk through them. God won't bless plans built on fear. He blesses steps taken in faith. Sometimes obedience looks crazy to other people. They won't get why you are doing what you are doing. They will question your decisions because they can't hear the voice you heard. But when you are walking with God, you stop needing validation from people. You stop needing approval. Your obedience will often be misunderstood, but it will always be rewarded. The proof of your faith is in your willingness to move when nobody else does. When you obey, you may not see instant results, but something shifts in the spiritual realm. Every act of obedience plants a seed. And just because you don't see growth yet doesn't mean nothing's happening. God's working underground, developing your roots, preparing your harvest. Keep obeying even when it feels pointless, because one day those steps of obedience will connect and you will see how every yes you gave brought you right into your blessing. You can talk faith all day long, but until your feet move, it's just talk. Faith is a verb. It's motion. You can pray for change, but if you never take action, you are just wishing. The Bible says faith without works is dead. That means you can believe God for a miracle, but if you are not doing your part, you are blocking your own breakthrough. God will open the door, but you still got to walk through it. Faith isn't sitting around waiting for a sign. It's taking what you already have and using it. If you are praying for a job, you'd better be applying. If you are asking for healing, start changing the way you live. If you are asking for purpose, start serving where you are. Too many people are waiting for the right conditions before they act, but faith says, I'll start with what I've got. Because when God sees you move, he multiplies your effort. Action is proof of belief. You can't say you trust God and then do nothing. Every step you take says, I believe it's possible. You might not have all the tools, all the support, or all the answers, but take that step anyway. When you move, momentum builds. And when momentum builds, blessings start to find you. Faith works best in motion. It's like fire that only burns when fed with action. Sometimes the action God asks of you won't make sense. He might tell you to give when you are broke, to speak when you are nervous, to stay when you want to run. That's where true faith gets revealed. It's easy to act when the outcome is certain, but faith-filled action happens when the outcome is unknown. It's doing your part while trusting God to handle his part. You don't need to know the full picture. Just keep showing up. You will realize that your greatest blessings came not from sitting and waiting, but from moving in faith. Every miracle in Scripture started with a step. The walls of Jericho fell after they marched. The Red Sea parted after they stepped in. The miracle always follows the motion. God responds to effort, not excuses. So don't just pray for it, prepare for it, work for it, move for it. And when you take action, don't expect immediate applause. Faith-filled moves often go unnoticed at first. You might be working in silence, planting seeds no one sees, but God sees it all. He honors action done in faith. Those quiet efforts, those moments of obedience, those little daily steps, that's what builds the foundation for your future breakthrough. Keep moving even when nobody claps for you. Every single time you act in faith, heaven pays attention. You might not see the result right away, but something shifts in your favor. Every act of faith echoes in eternity. So get up, take that step, do the work, and trust that God will meet you halfway. Because faith is not about sitting and waiting for miracles. It's about becoming the kind of person who attracts them through action. Most people want God to show the full plan before they make a move, but that's not how faith works. God doesn't hand you the blessing first. He waits to see if you will move without it. The moment you take that first step, that's when provision begins to flow. You can't expect God to pour into your life if you are too afraid to pour out your effort. The miracle never shows up before the motion. It always meets you in the middle. When you start walking with nothing but belief, you find that everything you need starts unfolding right on time. Not before and not after. It's like stepping out onto a bridge that doesn't appear until your foot touches the air. That's how God builds trust. He makes you walk by faith, not by sight. The reason some people never see their breakthrough is that they are still standing at the starting line waiting for the whole bridge to show. They are praying, asking, planning, but not stepping. God doesn't move when you plan. He moves when you act. You can't wait for the perfect setup. Faith is the setup. The moment your foot moves, the provision starts connecting behind the scenes in ways you can't see yet. Sometimes God will hold back the blessing until you prove your willingness to move without it. That's how he separates belief from comfort. Anyone can say, I trust you, Lord, when everything's going well, but the real test comes when there's no evidence. He wants to know, can you walk when you are unsure? Can you trust him enough to start even when you don't have enough money, support, or clarity? Because if you can, he'll make sure you have everything you need on the way. Provision isn't waiting for you at the start. It's waiting for you on the journey. Look at every story of faith. The miracle didn't come before the step. The Israelites had to walk into the sea before it parted. The man with the withered hand had to stretch it out before it healed. The blind man had to go wash in the pool before he could see. There's always movement before manifestation. God doesn't respond to doubt. He responds to demonstration. When he sees faith in action, he releases favor in motion. You can't ask God to bless what you are unwilling to begin. But the truth is that first step is often the hardest. It's scary to move when you can't see the outcome. Your mind starts listing all the reasons why it might not work. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if it's not the right time? But faith answers those fears with one truth. What if it does work? The moment you take that step, you break the chain of hesitation. You shift from waiting for things to happen to walking into what God has already prepared. Fear keeps you stuck, but faith keeps you growing. The beauty of faith is that it builds momentum. Once you take one step, God gives you strength for the next. He never expects you to run before you walk, but he expects you to move. Every time you step forward, heaven responds. You might not notice it immediately, but doors start creaking open, opportunities start forming, and resources start appearing. That's not a coincidence. That's divine confirmation. Faith sets things in motion that logic can't explain. What looked impossible yesterday becomes reachable today because you decided to move. And sometimes you won't even realize how close you were until you look back. You will see how every risk, every step, every leap of faith was guided. You will see how provision was hidden in the journey, not the destination. That's why you can't wait to have it all before you begin. You got to begin to have it all. The blessing meets you when your belief becomes visible. Faith starts the walk, but obedience brings the supply. When you move, God moves. And when you keep stepping, he keeps providing. Fear is the enemy of faith. It sneaks in quietly, whispering every reason why you shouldn't move, why it's too risky, why it might not work. Fear paints the worst possible outcome and convinces you it's reality. But faith speaks a different language. Faith says, I don't care what it looks like. I know who's in control. You can't hold both at the same time. Either fear drives the car or faith does. And the problem is when fear is in control, it always leads to regret. When faith drives, it leads to growth. You can't walk in both directions at once. Most people never see their break because fear talks them out of it before they even start. Fear says, what if you fail? Faith says, what if I fly? Fear says, you are not ready. Faith says, God will make me ready. The truth is fear will always be there. It just can't be in charge. You will feel it when you are stepping into something new, when you are unsure, when the path looks dark. But faith isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move despite fear. You have to look fear dead in the eye and walk anyway, because the power that lives inside you is greater than anything that tries to scare you. You got to understand something. Fear is loud, but it's also a liar. It exaggerates, it distorts, it magnifies problems that don't even exist yet. It keeps you rehearsing worst case scenarios that may never happen. That's how it controls you. But when you live by faith, you stop feeding fear's lies. You start focusing on what's possible instead of what's terrifying. Every time you choose faith, fear loses strength. Every time you speak hope, fear's voice gets weaker. It can't survive in a heart that trusts God's promise more than it trusts life's problems. There are moments when you will have to walk through fear to find freedom. God won't always remove the fear. Sometimes he'll make you walk right through it so you can realize it had no real power over you. Every time you do something scared, you take away fear's authority. The more you walk through it, the smaller it becomes. Courage doesn't come before the step. It comes because you step. That's how faith develops, one scared, shaky step at a time. Fear and faith both ask you to believe in something you can't see, but only one of them leads to peace. Fear makes you imagine a future without God's help. Faith reminds you that God's already in your future. When you choose fear, you focus on what could go wrong. When you choose faith, you focus on what God can make right. You get to decide which one you feed. Whatever you feed grows stronger. If you feed your fear with doubt, it'll paralyze you. But if you feed your faith with prayer, gratitude, and action, it'll lead you into everything meant for you. When fear starts to rise, that's when you speak life. You start declaring, I'm not walking by what I see, I'm walking by what I believe. You remind yourself that fear doesn't come from God. Courage does. Every time you feel fear creeping in, respond with faith-filled words. Speak confidently when you feel uncertainty. Speak victory when you see obstacles, because your words carry power. You can't talk fear and expect to walk in faith. You have to train your tongue to agree with what you believe, not what you are afraid of. And one of the most powerful ways to silence fear is to take action. Fear hates movement. It feeds on hesitation, but it dies in motion. When you act even in small ways, fear loses its grip. You start realizing that the thing you were afraid of wasn't as big as it seemed. Faith turns giants into grasshoppers and mountains into steps. You can't think your way out of fear. You have to move your way through it. Every faithful step pushes fear further out of your heart until eventually all that's left is confidence in what God can do through you. The struggle is where your faith gets built. Everybody wants blessings, but nobody wants battles. Yet, without battles, your faith stays soft. You can't grow in comfort. You grow in challenge. God uses struggle as a training ground for strength. It's easy, but when it's dark, lonely, and unclear, struggle doesn't mean God left you. It means he's working on you. There will be moments when you will wonder, why me? You will question why everything seems harder for you than for others. But that's because God is preparing you for something bigger. The greater the calling, the tougher the training, you are not being overlooked. You are being refined. Diamonds don't form without pressure. Gold doesn't shine without fire. You are being molded into something unshakable, and it's the struggle that gives you that edge. The pain you feel now is proof that something powerful is being built inside you. Struggle exposes what's real. It shows you where your faith actually stands. When everything's smooth, it's easy to say you trust God. But when the storm hits, when the job's gone, when people walk away, that's when faith reveals itself. That's when you find out what's inside you. Struggle will strip away the fake and reveal the foundation. It'll teach you how to depend on God, not people, how to find peace in chaos, how to keep walking when the road feels endless. That's the classroom of faith, and the struggle is the teacher. Sometimes God allows the struggle not to test your strength, but to strengthen your trust. He already knows what you can handle. He's trying to show you. When he puts weight on you, it's because he knows you can carry it. It's easy to see the struggle as a setback, but it's really set up for spiritual muscle. The resistance you feel is building endurance. The tears you shed are watering your growth. Every struggle has a lesson, and every lesson prepares you for the next level. You will notice that the closer you get to a breakthrough, the harder the battle becomes. That's not a coincidence. That's confirmation. The enemy always attacks hardest right before the blessing arrives. The struggle intensifies because you are getting closer. So don't mistake the storm for punishment. It's actually a sign that the promise is near. God doesn't waste pain. He uses it to position you, to humble you, to prepare your heart for what's coming. And when you are in the middle of it and it feels like too much to handle, that's when you remind yourself you have been here before and you made it through. Every past struggle was training for this one. You are stronger than you think, wiser than you were, and closer than you realize. The struggle is not the end. It's the evidence that faith is still working. And as long as you keep standing, keep believing, and keep trusting through the pain, you are already proving that your faith is alive. We live in a world that moves fast, and we start thinking God moves on our schedule. We want instant results, instant answers, instant blessings. But God doesn't work like Amazon Prime. He's not delivering your breakthrough overnight. His timing is divine, not convenient. You might think he's late, but he's actually lining things up. You are asking for the blessing, but God's preparing the ground for it to grow. You don't see it, but he's moving pieces in the background, setting up the right people, the right opportunities, the right season for it all to come together. When God makes you wait, he's not ignoring you. He's protecting you from what you are not ready for. Sometimes the delay is mercy in disguise. You think you are ready, but God knows what's ahead. He's holding you back because he sees the traps, the distractions, the lessons you haven't learned yet. The waiting season isn't wasted time. It's preparation time. He's building your patience, your character, and your faith. The delay is shaping the person you need to become to handle what you are praying for. We often pray for blessings, but not for the maturity to manage them. That's why God slows the process. He's not just working on what's coming, he's working on you. If he gave it to you too early, it might destroy you. He's teaching you discipline through delay, humility through hardship, and wisdom through waiting. Every day you don't see it happening. He's testing if you will still trust him. Faith doesn't grow in moments of control. It grows in moments of surrender. Think about it. If everything came easy, how would you ever learn to rely on God? When you can't figure out what he's doing, that's when faith has to kick in. That's when you have to say, God, even if I don't understand it, I trust you know better than I do, because he sees what you can't see. You only see the moment, but God sees the whole movie. He knows where you are headed, and he's making sure you arrive prepared. You can't rush divine order. His plan unfolds when it's supposed to, not when you want it to. And while you are waiting, your attitude matters. Complaining doesn't make God move faster. Patience and gratitude open doors that frustration will close. When you start thanking God for what's coming, even before it shows up, you are showing him you are ready. You are showing him that your faith is stronger than your feelings. The waiting room is where faith is proven, not when everything's happening, but when nothing seems to move and you still keep believing. Sometimes the reason it feels delayed is because what's being built for you is bigger than what you asked for. You prayed for a door, God's building a house. You asked for a job, he's preparing a career. You asked for one blessing, he's setting up generational favor. That kind of work takes time. God is not in a hurry. He's intentional. Every delay, every detour, every closed door is part of the design. You might not see it now, but when it finally happens, it'll make perfect sense why you had to wait. So when life feels stuck and your prayers seem unanswered, don't lose heart. The silence doesn't mean God forgot you. It means he's aligning your blessing with his perfect timing. What's meant for you will not miss you. It might not happen when you want it, but it will happen when it's right. The delay isn't denial, it's direction. He's guiding you toward the moment when everything he promised will unfold in a way that will leave you saying, only God could have done that. There's a season in life when God goes quiet, not because he's gone, but because he's teaching you to trust without noise. Silence doesn't mean abandonment, it means growth. When you can't hear him, that's when your faith starts stretching. That's when you learn to walk by faith, not by signs. It's in the quiet moments that God tests the depth of your belief. He wants to see if you still trust him when you can't feel him, if you will still pray when you don't get an answer, if you will still move forward even when there's no confirmation. You see, faith doesn't always live in miracles.